Jimi Hendrix, obviously an absolute legend. Is it the famous story of yourself and was it Steve Winwood who were jamming together and along came Voodoo Child? Is that correct?
Yes, and people use the word jam loosely as if all smoked a weed and just started playing together. But you know, musicians look for opportunities to play with each other, and we really enjoyed the opportunity. Mitch Mitchell was my buddy and friend. I just loved the way he played. I loved his, in my opinion, for what it's worth, in that early period of Jimmy with Mitch Mitchell, I think that's what gave the band a different kind of swing than if he had had a hard rock drummer, so to speak, like he had later on, or just a rhythm and blues drummer or something. I think that's what gave a different sound on it. So Mitch and I got along great. And there's lots of stories. I can tell you about that some other time. And with the Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco, Mitch and I, and Jimmy playing and doing some jamming. But in this sense, he was making a record. So I was fortunate enough to play a cut on the record with Steve Winwood. I love Steve. I mean, I've got his single upstairs in my record collection that I bought then. I mean, just phenomenal. Yeah, I'll give you some love. And it just, when we heard that, that was the kind of song that Steve Winwood did. It truly was like an American icon song of going down the road in your convertible, and listening to that song blaring out of your radio like crazy. It really set the tone at the time. It was just phenomenal. In any case, and then Jimmy and I, and he invited us over. We had played what's I'd done the Dick Cavett show, early TV show, Jefferson Airplane, and then we went over to a club as one of the day. Like I said earlier,
Yeah.
Norm and I carried my bass. He carried his guitar around all the time. That's what you get when you're young. And we heard, because we taped the show early at 8 o'clock or something. And so, and everything starts up in New York late, of course. And we heard that Traffic was doing I believe, was their first, if not first shows, their first tour over in the United States. And we'd had their records. Everybody heard each other's records and stuff, if I can interject, that was exciting about the time. Everybody checked each other out, and I think in a very healthy way, was spurred on by other people's development in their own band.
Yeah.
And that's what brings me back to bands. The bands like the Rolling Stones and bands like Traffic and bands like Jimi Hendrix and bands that had different things going on within that band. Bands like Cream, where you heard the personalities of the individual players at work in hand, and so we heard that the Traffic was playing at Steve Paul's Scene, which was a little half underground club in New York at the time. One of those typical friendly clubs, where there's a post in front of the bandstand, things like that, and and so we went over to hear him, and Jimmy came in, and we had known Jimmy he came in late at night, I think 11 or something. We had known him from, early days at the Fillmore and playing around and doing so much stuff together. And so after talking and listening to their set and being wowed by their set, and then he invited whoever wanted to back over because he took a break from recording. And he had just, as the word goes, he had just taken control over pretty much of the session from Chaz Chandler. And so the sessions were probably annoyingly loose to other band members, but in any case, so I don't know, 17 or 15 of us were all over there, packing up the vocal booth and doing what you do, when you're doing such nonsense. And we listened to him work on overdubs and some tracks on the album one night. And then I think about 6 a.m. or something, he said, let's play a song. Let's play a blues. So he worked out the change, and we worked the changes out. This wasn't a jam. I mean, but, he worked out the layout of the song and whatnot and where it's going to go. Well, we didn't know where it was going to go exactly, but we did that, and we did a half a take. I think it broke a string, and then we did the full take, uh, uh, and had a ball. But I've been asked what it was like to play with Jimmy, and it was great. He wanted to play. He was a musician. He wanted to get down and play. So it wasn't, when you do that, you just want to do your job and do it well, but at the same time, you want to draw up each other. And so Jimmy and I could look into each other's eyes, and there was just nothing but, let's do some play. And so in that way, it was absolutely normal, like any other, all the hoo-ha that comes from it, imagery of the stuff he was trying to shed from him anyway, because he wanted to get down and play. Great player, great songwriter. And I think, if he had lived, we would have heard him develop a lot more in a lot more different directions. But I think soon after that, there was a certain amount of an albatross around his neck with all that went, the hoopla that went along with what people perceived as who he was. And that happened to all of us, in a lot of senses that way.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was great to do. And it was great later on, because when he played in town at Winterland next year or something, we had I had a hook. He could invite me on stage. I had something to play, so we knew we could. And so I was real happy about that. He played something besides Red House, And so then I think it was about 7:30 in the morning, and we looked at each other, jumped in the station wagon, piled our stuff in there, and drove to Washington, D.C. because we had the gig next night. That's what you do when you're young. We drove, the 250 miles down to D.C., our hometown, and played down there.
As you do. And just what?
Yeah, I'm sure we didn't get a 1 minute sleep, till the following night.